Hey Sam,
Hey Brian, how's it going?
good. Yeah, just a lot of interesting stuff going on, and
Yeah,
the AI world just keeps spinning.
it certainly does, man. It's head spinning. It's head spinning. Like I listen. I've been reading a lot of articles and watching listening to a lot of podcasts and it's an entirely new economy. It's an entirely new wave of things. That are appearing. It's kind of like evolution, you know. There's this new organism that's come in and it is taking over, you know, and there's all these things that are mushrooming around it. Yeah, it's an entirely new, as we spoke about last time, like operating system, and there's an entire new world of things popping up around it. I had some insights about it though. Like I kind of know where I think you've got to get to and what you've got to deliver as a product now to be successful in this new future. Maybe we can sort of
Yeah,
discuss.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that because we kind of talked around that last time, and I think
Mm.
it was one of the few times I was pretty stumped in the conversation when you're talking kind of, what are
Yeah,
the products that are really going to stick from a business standpoint. We talked about how competition is kind of always driving the cost to zero in this, and except for
yeah,
compute.
yeah.
And
Well, there's no doubt in my mind now. It's got to be this agent. It's got to be agentic. That's a very broad term, but it's reality, I think. Like, and when I say agentic, it's kind of like it's got to be um, not always a replacement, but a replacement, but an enhancement of human capabilities.
Mhm.
That's what it's got to become. So I'll give you a few examples. And I might extract some quotes that I've actually got from another article, which has sort of like got me to this sort of viewpoint. Is so lately, I don't know if you've seen some of my posts lately, but I've been using Claude Code in these terminals.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about this because I had kind of a disastrous experience last night not
Yeah.
using it, and I
Yeah.
all of a sudden the light bulb came on for me about why it's so important. But I want to hear
Well,
your
I mean, I don't. It's important, but I think it's almost like a sign. Like if you don't do this, you're stuffed. Like that's kind of what I came to, right? Because you know, and this is even crazy to say. I think like some of like Lovable, for example, Lovable. I think they're in trouble. Like when I use this stuff, you know, and I've been a huge fan of them because what you can do when it turns agentic. So in these Claude Code terminals, right? So you can, I mean, a terminal was so foreign to me, like even a month ago. I mean, I'd never really used a terminal, right? But I figured out through with ChatGPT's help how to use this Claude code, and really the hard part is setting it up. But you set it up in this terminal, um, and you just basically download the Claude package. It loads onto your machine, and then you have a code like a coding assistant in your on your machine, so you can
all through terminal, right? Though.
all through terminal. Yep.
Yeah.
So basically it can read files on your machine and it can adjust files on your machine. So perfect for like building apps, right? And so it's using the best models, and for some reason they just not only are the best models, but they interact with your code base better than any of the other ones like Cursor, Windsurf, because I think these IDEs have got some other things wrapped around them for managing the sort of costs and various other things with using these models. But because this is Claude and it's Anthropic, it's going directly to whatever their model is or something. Like
Mm.
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly. But anyway, it's better. It's better than these other ones. But what I realized is that I don't have to restrict myself to one of these terminals open at one time. I can open as many as I like. I saw other people doing this on Twitter and stuff. And then I did it myself. And then all of a sudden, I have four terminals open and I'm just talking. I'm using my transcription tool. I'm talking all of my ideas out. And as soon as I have an idea, pop it into a terminal. The AI agent goes and does it. As soon as I have another idea for another part of the app, the AI agent goes and does that. And then I had four of these things working at exactly the same time on different parts of my code base. And so really what, so look, that's just one application, but what that sort of that signal to me was, unless you go agentic like this, there's no competing. There's no competing with this. Even tools like Lovable and stuff, unless they go agentic like this, they're stuffed. They're going to get run over by tools like this because you can, as soon as something goes agentic, you can just spin multiple of these things up and boom. And so it kind of also hinted at where data's going too, right? And I'm sure you've got some better insights there. As soon as you can get MCP connected and these tools become agentic and you can spin multiple up at once,
Right.
there's nothing stopping you from having four data analysts just running on like your whatever thought you have, just going and doing some agentic analysis multiple times over, as many times as you want, actually. So anyway, that's kind of come insight. I've got some other insights about how that sort of relays onto other apps and other parts of the application world that you can build. But that's kind of been my big insight over the last couple of weeks. Um, yeah, so keen to get what you think about that.
It's funny in a number of regards. I mean, the funny one of the funny things I've been using Terminal a lot because I've been doing a lot of Python and learning about virtual environments and kind of managing your environments in Python, which is kind of a nightmare compared to R.
Mm,
Um, but all of a sudden I'm back in Terminal all the time, and it's like getting time warped back to 1987, when
yeah.
everything was done in DOS, and so all my CD backslash star dot py
Mm,
it all it was all kind of streaming back to me from 40 years ago. Um, but the other thing that was really interesting was I sat down last night to really build my first real app. And I got really in the weeds. And what happened was I had this really clear idea of what I wanted to do and this very complex prompt that I started off with. And what would happen is it would get through parts of it and that would be okay. And then I would go to the next part and it would somehow screw up the first part and then it would lose the thread. And I thought, man, like all of a sudden it kind of clicked on that if I could split this up and kind of
mm,
delegate, okay, the web scraping to this agent, and then the audio compression to this agent, and the API to this agent, and then have one that kind of pulled it all together, then what I could have done is tested each of them kind of independently and said,
mm,
okay, this is good, and okay, this one needs to be fixed. And what I ended up doing was just rerunning the same code over and over and over through Claude and just, burning tokens like a madman. And
mm,
it was really inefficient. It generated an enormous amount of unnecessary code because it was regenerating stuff that I'd already resolved and then
mm.
broke again. And so it was kind of a nightmare. And 3 o'clock in the morning, I finally just packed it in and said, yeah, I'm going to start over, doing this a
Was
better
that
way.
lovable? Were you in lovable?
I started in Lovable and then I kind of lost the thread on that one and ended up
Mm,
back in Claude. And yeah,
mm,
to tell you the truth, I was pretty lost. I mean, it's funny. I've watched a lot of your videos on this, and it's exactly the experience I had years ago in DAX, where I would watch a video and say, okay, that makes total sense. And then I would
mm.
get on and do it myself, and I'd be like, oh man, I am deep in the weeds.
Yeah.
And so it was actually a good experience though, because I thought, okay, I understand now things I didn't understand before that I heard you tell me and I saw other people doing, and I was like, man, I can't quite figure out the importance of these being able to spin up multiple agents. And now I totally get it.
Yeah. So a couple of like so I'm I recognized pretty early on when I was using tools like Lovable and I was a vibe coder and things like that, that you still had to really understand the architecture of what you were building, or you did just
Yep.
get completely and utterly lost. Um, and and so that's
True.
why, yeah, that's why we built no code. That's why I was like deep in the like I was deeply learning how to architect how to architect an app. I was certainly learning it a different way to what you traditionally would have learned it. But I am like when I'm working with the AIs now, I'm orchestrating, but also I'm understanding what they're doing. Like I'm not checking lines of code, I'm not checking paragraphs of code, but I'm just checking, are they working in the right place? Are they working?
Mm.
Are they building? Are they organizing my code base in the right folders with the right components, and I'm sort of communicating to the AIs in that way. And so that was always the biggest unlock for me around this is that I recognized it early and then I just went deep. I went absolutely deep. I talked to the AIs like multiple times a day. We built no code, so I was able to visually see how it all sort of worked. And so yeah, that's sort of why I've sort of taken, I think I'm sort of taking the leap and really, I don't understand everything. I don't, and I don't check everything as well, but I'm, I have a lot more intuition about what's going on. So if something is going very awry, that is going to massively stuff up what I'm trying to achieve, I can pick it up like pretty much straight away now. So, look, there still is a bit of learning there to sort of get there. But yeah, look, the multiple agents. I'm telling you, like, if you use Claude Code, I don't know if you've used Claude Code, but if you,
Haven't yet, but it's definitely one of the things I'm going to fire up soon.
it's, I mean, once you get it going, it's so easy. I mean, she's just writing English, but it seems to just understand your code base. Even larger code base is so much better, so much better. Like, I went back to Lovable on the weekend, and I found it frustrating, honestly. I did with all the latest stuff that you can
Which
do.
is amazing because I mean you've been totally on board with that, and yeah,
Totally,
yeah,
totally.
I subscribed to it on your recommendations.
Yeah. No, look, I still think it's a great place to start because it was still brilliant in terms of this has always been the case with them. They made the hard parts of understanding your back, like your database and connection to
Right.
GitHub. They made that super easy. And I've always said that. And I always thought that that was their best attribute, actually. Um, and that's still the case. That is still the case. But see, now that I elevated from a Lovable, I went to an IDE. So I started using Windsurf and Cursor, and I sort of understood how to interact with GitHub and the database from there. But now I've gone to Claude Code and I can use multiple agents at once. That's just like the next level. And like most real developers are recognizing this as well, by the way. Like if you go and listen, I actually listened to some pretty respected, I listened to a podcast of a pretty respected group of people who are like developers and have developed open source projects. They're all now using Claude Code all of a sudden. They've realized the picture there. My developers have been convinced pretty quickly that this is the way to do it. Like, I mean, it's all moving very fast, but it's so superior when you can spin up multiple agents and just have them like work away, and they're hardly getting anything wrong when you prompt them correctly. Like it's hard to go back to anything that's is not as optimal as that.
What's your prompting strategy with those?
Look, there's nothing scientific about it. I'm just being quite specific in what I'm asking. That in terms of the architecture of the app. Because what can really confuse the AI, I find, and more as you get more into more complex apps, is if you're very disorganized and how you set things up. So, for instance, when you create like when you're creating like a complex front end, you want to make it very modular. So you don't want these like massive code files. And so you want to make it, you want your code files to be quite small as one, but then you want to also organize your components all in the right areas so that they're very easy to reference within a particular
Mm.
page that you want to think. So like when I'm prompting, I'm sort of saying, can you please go look at this component, which is in this folder, and can you please change it like this? And so there's no strategy to my prompt. It's just like I'm being quite specific in how I want things
Mm.
actually done. And that's where the architectural intuition like really helps. It really does help in terms of get the speed and getting things done. So I mean, I've just maybe I underrate how much I've learned over the last 6 months or so, and forget the learning curve there. But yeah, a lot of it sort of just feels a lot more intuitive than it used to. It's also how do you get so there's in Supabase there's this concept of edge functions which enables you to run API calls at the
Right.
edge.
I've been doing
So
that. Yeah.
so that's a much better way to run AI API calls than to have them within your core code base. Because if someone is in the United States, then it goes to the closest server to them to actually go and run the API call. And if they're in Asia, same thing. So it's also organizing those edge functions well, making sure that you haven't your you're grouping edge functions correctly, or you're not creating unnecessary edge functions when you can maybe run them all through the one edge function. So just little things like that. I mean, I picked them up over time, because I've built like 10 things now. Like I'm just sort of a lot better there. And also I've got my developers who've been giving me just the odd bit of guidance and things like that. So, but I don't know. I don't know. Like I keep thinking that I should be training people on this, but then I realize it's all moving so fast. Like you can create a course and then a month later, like it doesn't even matter. So there's something better. So it's a tough one. I just write about it. That's what I've been doing. I've been writing about it.
You know, it's interesting because I found one of the biggest challenges and the biggest changes is from a data analyst standpoint, you just don't use GitHub much. It's just it's not an environment that I think most data analysts are really used to working in. And with apps, it's just essential.
Totally.
And kind of exactly what you were talking about, kind of how you organize your files and your architecture is kind of everything in that, and kind of nothing in data analysis because you're typically working, you know, even though you're working across a whole model, you're working on a particular part of it. And so, your DAX or your R, it's pretty self-contained, in
Yeah.
most cases.
Yeah. Look, once you get your head around GitHub, it's simple. It's simple. Like it just takes you've just got to just do a couple of things and work your
Yeah.
way through them, and then it just becomes second nature. Like I'm interacting with GitHub like multiple times a day now, but I'm just letting the AIs just do it. The AI just does it. I just tell it what to do, and then um, I use a little bit of I can't remember what the devs call it, but like, it's best practices around using GitHub. I never commit to the main branch. I always commit to a sub branch, and then I merge into the main branch later on. So like I do a little bit of best practice there, but nothing like complicated or anything, and nothing complex at all. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit there, but yeah, I don't know. I've just picked it up all so quickly because I've just been so immersed in it for 6 months now,
Yeah.
6 to 9 months. Like it's just all second nature now, and now I'm just spending all my time just like getting my ideas out. Um, but this theme of agentic software, there's no the we had our doubts 6 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe even.
Yeah.
But I don't have any doubts now. Like there is just like no doubt this is the future of everything. And this is actually the massive unlock of AI. Like everyone hasn't seen there just hasn't been the productivity stats to showcase AI is that transformational for business and stuff. But once something goes agentic, I mean, it's insane. It's insane the productivity around that you can achieve. Like I'm achieving myself in the past week. I'm achieving what four people would have achieved from an app development point of view, um, in the same time frame. No doubt in my mind. Like just looking at my GitHub commits, like I'm doing 100 changes a day. Like my developers 2 years ago would probably get to 10 a day. Like that's how
Mm.
how hard it was to, well, not hard, but just like how much time it took to actually physically code something out and understand the whole code base and things like that. Like it's real. It's totally real. The productivity gains that you can get. Um, so code is obviously the first place that this is happening. But I think it's going to hit everything. I think it's going to. This is what you need to build for. I guess that's what my key theme is, that unless you're building a piece of software in any market which has this agentic potential, I just don't think you're going to survive. I don't think you're actually going. You're not utilizing the full capability of AI. So
Well, and even as you say, you think about it from a data analysis standpoint, it's like you can have, you know, a Monte Carlo simulation going on with this agent. You can have this one
Yep.
building forecasts. You can have this one, building dashboards. It's like, the possibilities are huge on this. And I kind of think that we've been kind of on different tracks, in the same in
Yeah.
the same, area. And I think we're merging onto the same on-ramp because what I see there are MCP clients now that will control terminal. And so what I can definitely see happening is you've got MCP sitting over the top of your agents. And so you're
Yep.
you're switching between agents, you're bringing other resources into your agents via MCP.
Yep.
And then, kind of taking the results and maybe, documenting and managing them, through that as well. And so I think it's not going to be long before we're kind of on the same road.
Oh, 100%. I mean, as an, I mean, I already am. I just haven't done as much data analysis, maybe stuff as you, but I connected up my Superbase MCP to my Claude Code terminals, and that just elevated things again
Yeah, that's a
because
monster.
I went a few days without having my MCP set up for Superbase, and then I was manually copying. I was manually just doing migrations. I was copying SQL into Superbase. I was copying edge functions into Superbase. And then I just found I was like, this is boring. I don't want to do this anymore. And so I then set up my Superbase MCP, and now the terminal was doing that. And I was like,
Yeah.
holy shit, this is just doing everything. This is doing everything, and I'm just talking. Um, I mean, it's crazy. It's like, and yeah, I mean, I had four going at one time. If I could think of enough things to do, I could have as many as I want working.
Yeah.
This is the thing. This is the thing. As soon as something goes agentic, boom, you could have 10 agents working on this stuff all the time. I don't even know what that does to productivity statistics. Like that is the real unlock of AI, isn't it? It's not just using ChatGPT to have a conversation and to write a better email and to write a better social media post. This is actual getting stuff done
Yeah.
type of thing and getting the stuff done at scale. And I mean, it's hard to fathom what that becomes actually. It really is. It's an exponential change. Like this is what the AI people have been talking about for ages, by the way. Like this is actually just like coming true. It's actually happening.
Did you watch? You said you've been watching a lot of stuff and reading a lot of stuff. Did you watch that Andre Karpathy talk about Software 3.0? That was like the
I
best thing I've watched in months.
Yeah, I didn't watch the full thing. I did watch a highlight package. I guess the big th my main takeaway from the highlight package that I saw was we're moving into a new age of software. And it was a continuation on from something I heard from him maybe a couple of years ago, is that uh, this is the new operating system.
Right.
This is the new way
And the
to
new
think
language
of.
is natural language.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So just think about Windows. This is going to be the new operating system, but there's not going to be, there could be multiple winners. Yeah, there could be like lots of winners. It's not going to be as dominant as sort of Windows was historically because you'll be able to go into ChatGPT, you'll be able to go into Claude, you'll be able to go into Cursor maybe, you'll be able to like, there's a lot of entry points into these operating systems, I think. But it's hard to say.
It's a
It's hard to say
it's
exactly how
worth
much.
it's worth going back and watching the whole thing because it's kind of a brilliant path that he takes, kind of historically, going from kind of the first days of computing to now and kind
Yeah.
of showing the parallels of like which things correspond to which other things in that evolution. I thought it was great. It's like here's this guy who is, one of the most knowledgeable people on the planet about, AI, and yet it was the kind of thing you could give to your friends who are not, in the data field, and they would still understand it, I think, and appreciate what he was communicating. It was like, it was one of those rare talks that I thought anybody at any level could get a lot out of.
Yeah. Well, look, I will. I'll definitely re go through it. I found the other day. it's just a really great article from a VC firm that I found. I'll just get it up in front of me. I
Oh,
saved it.
while you're looking for that, there, when
Yeah.
you were talking about, kind of the 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 wow of, seeing this kind of in real time, there was a great post by a guy today where he connected AdventureWorks to MCP for the first time, and
Oh
he's just
yeah.
kind of sitting there going, "Whoa!" Like, he's trying stuff and it's spinning up dashboards and it's, calculating,
Mm.
functions, and it's summarizing the schema with 40 something tables, and it was really fun to watch. It was only like 5 minutes long, but it was kind of
Yeah.
like the first reaction I had when I saw Claude work against my database.
So they were using Claude to actually do it as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Well,
Claude hooked
that's what
to
we talked about last
Claude
time.
hooked to
When
SQL on AdventureWorks.
That's exactly what I said last time as well. I said, look, I used this for half an hour and I realized this is just a better way. This is just a
Yeah,
way better way. Like as soon there's still got to make the connections easier, no doubt about it. Um, but
I got some to hold
yeah,
that thought for later.
yeah. But I mean, it's just better. It's just so much better. So much better. Like it's yeah, it's undeniable if you just experience it, right? So. Let's just say that, look, there is no future unless you're agentic. I think that there's no future in any sort of product you build, it's particularly like software, unless you're agentic, right? Um, but what that means is that, so what this article was saying is that verticalization is now of software is now a massive opportunity. So, for example, CRMs, right? CRMs are historically horizontal. You get HubSpot or you get a CRM package, and it's really for everyone. It's really for everyone.
Right.
But what they're saying is that there's now massive opportunities in being a vertical in that. So you could be a CRM for finance people or a CRM for um, a retail shop or CRM for a consulting firm or whatever. And what you can do as soon as you turn it agentic, you can then start building workflows that are super specific around all the things that are meaningful to that cohort. And they didn't really make sense before because obviously the AI didn't really exist and you couldn't really do a lot of automations. But as soon as you can, start customizing it around that exact persona or that exact user, you can do things like have the ability for like what happens when you go agentic in these sort of verticals is you can do a lot more proactive things with your software because at like traditional software where you're waiting for someone to come in and log in and click right and click around and do whatever they need to do, but with agentic you can then look at the database potentially and you could then go out into the world and explore, okay, what should you be doing today? What should you be which customers on LinkedIn should you be reaching out to? Like this is the sort of level of depth that you can get to in an agentic piece of software that actually has some sort of level of intelligence that just was not possible before. And a horizontal software that's trying to be everything to everyone can't do that. It can't do that because it can't factor in every little thing. I mean, they can try, but I don't think they're going to be as effective as a really highly specialized vertical piece of software. Um, and so that was sort of the general theme. And when I read that, I was like, that is so true. That is so true. Because and that is where there's a lot of opportunities in software actually. A lot. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Try to be hyper specific but incredibly effective for a specific cohort. And that's where you can generate a lot of value.
I mean, it's really interesting you bring that up this week because it really reminds me on a kind of a bigger, more commercial level of the fact that OpenAI finally turned custom GPTs back on for LRMs. That they hadn't worked. I mean, they worked, but the best model you could put against them was 4.0.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, what you can do now is you can take their best models and put enhance data against that model. And so,
Right.
as you were saying, what I did was, I went back and redid all the custom GPTs I'd done for, DAX and M and R and
Hmm.
regex and everything. And so you can do exactly that, which is you can build a much more specific functionality that's in some cases, they've estimated 20 to 30% or percentage points better than the base models just by really focusing, narrow and deep. And that's
Mm.
kind of a small individual version of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Another great way to think about this next wave is you need to build a software that is as good as a superstar employee is right now. So a superstar salesperson would every day be exploring opportunities for follow-up to understand a customer's usage of a platform or all of those proactive things, right? So all of those proactive things that a superstar employee would do, and that's and sales is just like one vertical. You could parlay that into other verticals as well. But there is the ability to now create software that actually does a lot of that stuff. And that's what you need to be building. And you need and where the agentic thing plays into that is that it's not just doing one thing at one time. It's actually spinning up multiple things at a time and doing those in parallel and bringing those together and making an informed decision based on that, or presenting that to the human in the loop to then to be able to execute what they need to do faster. So I mean, it's this is all just like high level stuff, but it's kind of it's exciting. I get excited talking about it. It's it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible what's possible now, you know?
I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting because I totally agree that's where it's headed. But what I found this week was kind of surprising in terms of, in a sense, how sheltered most of the AI models are, in the sense that they will they will give you recommendations when you're coding. They'll say, okay, we'll use this and we'll use this. And what I found is, in most cases, their knowledge, even with the web enabled, their knowledge of alternative methods is really limited. And
Right.
that they don't, if you say, like, wow, that seems really inefficient, really slow, isn't there a tool out there that is better? Or even in some cases say, hey, we can do that with the MCP tools that are connected to you. And they're like, oh, that's useful. Um,
Mhm.
and so what I found is it kind of, it's kind of back in that view of, you as the manager of this team. And what I found is it's like they don't get out much. They don't really know what's out there. And it's something that kind of surprised me because I thought as they developed the web capability, and became more like, I'm finding when I talk to the other models, it's more like Perplexity than it used to be. Like I always used to go to Perplexity for anything, anything current. And now
Mhm.
you can kind of do that. I mean, I still use Perplexity for that, but you can turn on the web search in, OpenAI or Google, and it's pretty current. And it's pretty good. And I kind of thought as that happened, they would become a bit more aware of what's out there. And I haven't found that. Have you run into that in your coding?
Um, Look, they're still not perfect. There's no doubt in my mind. And still, like, I have MCP connected, and then it will go and ignore it and go and do something else. Like,
Right.
so so you have to direct it. You have to direct it. I mean, nothing has changed from what I'm seeing, where it's like completely autonomous or anything. It's working up way better plans and executing those tasks to achieve that plan. I mean, it's better. I mean, I didn't even think that existed like 2 months ago.
Right.
So I'm certainly seeing that better than I've ever seen. But it still makes like stupid errors and is ignorant. And I mean, but I mean, we all do that. So.
Right.
You've got to direct it. You got to. It's
It's
exactly
just
like
I'm finding
it's
it has some
exactly like you've already
consistent
said.
blind spots. It has some
Yeah.
consistent blind spots that I didn't realize until recently.
Yeah.
Um,
Look, I don't think I haven't noticeably seen it so far in what I've like in that way, but I mean, yeah, I mean it's definitely not perfect. It's
yeah.
still not perfect, but um look, it's better than it was. I mean, it's better than Claude Code has opened up a new universe in the last 10 days for me. You know, like it's evolving so fast. And look, the AI companies are saying these models are going to get even better. So you've got to think that even that's going to improve.
Well, the rumor is that GPT-5 is going to drop in July.
Right.
And whether that's true or not, I don't know. But there seems to be this feeling that it's going to be bigger and different. Like it's going to be an evolutionary jump again.
Yeah.
Um, it remains to be seen. But you know, in some sense, I think I think it's possible. Because if you look at the base models on which it was trained, they're at the time we were kind of like, these don't really seem like 4.5 doesn't seem that much better. But
Mm,
I think it was substantially better. And then that magnifies through the reinforcement learning. I think I kind of have this gut feeling this could be huge, and that we
mm,
could see all of a sudden somebody take a big leap forward, kind of like, maybe even bigger than when Gemini kind of just swept everybody else off the court for a while.
mm.
Um,
The realization to me is that a better model is great. It's great. But a better model in the format of ChatGPT, just in the one question, one answer type,
right.
it just doesn't matter anymore. That is not going to add any incremental improvements to productivity or anything anymore. Um, but my realization is that if you can turn that, it does open up more agentic opportunities, right? So if you can move that over into agentic opportunities that can be running in parallel, that can be doing multiple things at once to get a result, that is where you see the massive enhancements in productivity and ability to do new things. Um, yeah, that is when you can spin up an incredible web application in a week. You know, that's when you can potentially, you know, I'm just trying to relate it back to the data world. I guess like, that's when you can build your entire database infrastructure in a couple of days, potentially, like just through prompting. You know, historically, data engineering took, mm, if you think about just data engineering, okay, so data engineering is more going to be more important than ever. It always was important, but it's going to be more important, and it's actually um, going to be able to be potentially done by a lot more people. No doubt about. I don't know if you want to have it done by more people, but because it can turn into a very costly exercise. But anyway, um, the speed at which you're going to be able to build this architecture of your data is insane, absolutely insane. Because like one person could be the equivalent of 4 to 5 if they're just like bringing the ideas to life. You could build your entire database infrastructure. If you could almost rebuild it. You're probably better off in a lot of cases just throwing a lot of these stuff out and rebuilding it in a sandbox somewhere and then porting everything over. Like this is all the things that historically you would never do. You would absolutely never do, and you wouldn't even do it with ChatGPT as a one question, one answer, but you would potentially do it if there was AI agents that you could control very easily doing, the equivalent of 5 people's work. Like that is I mean, I guess I'm just like repeating myself, but that is that I've been awakened. I've been awakened to what this huge, like what is actually coming. Like it's here. It's already here in the coding space now. I mean, I could through Superbase MCP, I could do that. I could do that through MCP right now
Mm,
because like I can control the database from my terminal now, from a terminal using Claude Code, who hardly gets anything wrong from a SQL perspective. So I mean, you could do it even now.
yeah. Yeah. So I want to go
So
back to something you said about, kind of software having kind of taken the level of the superstar employee. Because the
yep,
thing we've talked about in the past is that you've got these three these three legs of the stool. You know, you've got your technical knowledge, you've got your domain knowledge, you've got your communication and collaboration skills.
Yeah.
Um, and the question is, you know, we've been saying that, you know, that basically the technical is going to get taken over largely by AI. And you know, there's going to be the management of the technical and the other two that are really kind of the refuge of people who are still going to have something big to offer. And does this change your view on any of that?
Um, well, I've always thought we're just going to be able to do more. Like we're just going to be able to do a lot more. None of the themes actually changed for me. Like I've always thought this just gives the individual so much more agency. So as an individual, you can do, from okay, let's just say from my own usage over the past 10 days, like I'm the equivalent of 3 to 4 people now building applications if I want to be.
Mm,
So our idea of individual agency with AI is incredibly spot on because that is incredibly empowering for the individual, but that is also empowering for the business or a large enterprise if you can um, give that power to individuals as well. The expectation is just you're going to be able to do more. You're going to be able to do a lot more. So I don't know, like, I just feel, everyone's going to have to start thinking bigger about what they're doing, you know?
mm,
So if you're a data analyst, you're going to have to start thinking much bigger about about what you're doing. I mean, you're going to have to be building apps to build applications, build AI applications that get a lot more data that you then have to manage. There's going to be more data to manage in that case. Like everything's going to be bigger, 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 and so you're going to have to start thinking like that, I think, and start working towards that. I mean, we know for a fact that there's always like multiple times more you could be analyzing that you could be
right, right.
managing from a data perspective. And I would say it's the same from any technological perspective in an organization. Every time, I mean, it's been a while now, but every time I was in an organization, there was always like so many things that you could do from a technical point of view or an IT point of view that you could never get to because you never had the resources, right? So much more of that is now achievable, and so many more people can be involved in actually making that a reality. So yeah, I just look, it's just everyone's going to have to think bigger, go bigger, be bigger, um, because you can. That's what I think.
I mean, it's really interesting in the sense that, you know, we've talked about kind of how everybody has become a manager, you know, and that
Yeah.
you're managing this team of AIs, but in, in a sense, what it had always been before was you've got this group of models and you would work with this model and then you take it back and then you'd work with this model, you know, for this test. And now it's like it was really metaphorical in the sense that they weren't different entities, they were just different versions of the same box you were talking to. And
Yeah.
now it's literally a bunch of boxes
Yeah.
um, that can then go out in the world themselves. And so I think it really becomes a lot like, in a sense, almost like a conference call where you're on with a bunch of team members, you know, scattered remotely, you know, around the world or the country, and you're talking to everybody at the same time.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it is. And look, I think as an individual, you're only restricted. Like, there's going to come a time like at the moment, it's only sort of for me, it's only this coding aspect, right? But there's going to be a time where the only restriction is how much stuff you can think of doing. Like, it's not
Right.
actually going to be physically you actually sitting there typing, it's just going to be you thinking and talking, and then the AI agents are going to go off and do it. I mean, that's kind of like what I'm doing right now. Like, that is what I'm doing from an app development perspective, what I've been doing for the last 10 days since I sort of started doing this. And so, I think that's what it's going to come to. It's just you're going to be just thinking you need this, thinking and then saying it, and then you're going to. And this is what you need to build for. Like if you want to create something valuable, this is where you need to slot in. You need to actually build this. Like that's what I'm. I mean, that's just what I'm all like it day and night. That's all I'm thinking about right now. Is that how can you build something that fits into what people are going to be using that enables that to happen, enables that to actually happen. It's certainly not easy. I don't even know how to build some of this stuff, but that's what you got to become. Like I just don't think you've got a choice. I don't think you've got a choice. Like even if these amazing tools that we've been using, if even if ChatGPT, unless they go agentic, unless you go agentic and you have these AI agents running lots of things, I think you're gonna be toast. You're not gonna survive in the next year or two because that's what's coming. That's what everyone's going to be building towards, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
I
the
mean,
same.
it becomes interesting to see if you get kind of the equivalent of AI middle managers that you have at some point more agents than you can deal with. And so
Yeah.
do you have AIs that are trained basically to manage agents?
Yeah. The other insight I had, it was bringing some of our historic thoughts about Copilot. And I was listening to a Bloomberg interview on YouTube with the Salesforce CEO, Mark Benioff.
Mhm.
So what he's done, he's a master salesperson, by the way, and I think most of what he talks about is just most of what he says is just complete BS. I don't think it's actually reality. But anyway, everyone's trying to stake their claim. They're all trying to position themselves in this AI wave, right? They're trying to say where they are at, and then as soon as they catch up, they will they can say that they were the first there or they were always there. So his
Right.
his strategy, right, with Salesforce, he believes in agent force. He believes in creating digital workers, right? And that's how he's positioning Salesforce, digital workers. Whilst Microsoft is positioning Copilot. And if you think about those two things, those two concepts, they're actually very different. They're very,
Mhm.
very different. He's saying his future is just spin up AI to agents, right? Just spin up AI agents, digital workers, and multiply yourself 10 times. Microsoft have come up with a strategy that they think everything's in combination with the human. And it's kind of interesting. Like I I actually think that in the future, Copilot is going to be seen as silly, potentially, because that is just an overlay on a tool which isn't agentic. It's just that their historic tools are actually holding them back from becoming full on, here's how you spin up five AI agents to go and do this, And look, they don't have a choice. I guess they have to do that based on what they've historically, their historical business. But I think Copilot's not going to be the strategy that works out. I actually don't, unless they're somehow going to build this agentic thing in behind it. Now, I don't know. I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to succeed. I don't know. We're like they're so big and powerful. And maybe it will, but I don't know. Just in recent weeks after and sort of hearing these anecdotes and stuff, I think the positioning of Copilot is not actually the future. It is actually more this digital worker type thing. Is sort of more the play. Is going to be the winner. It's going to be the winning concept at the end of the day.
I mean, it's interesting because I kind of came at it from a little bit different standpoint this week, which I had kind of the Power BI is dead man walking post, and
Yeah,
my thinking in that was that we've been in this 10-year period where the whole focus has been making things low code, no code. And
yeah,
that was because humans were better at clicking on stuff than coding stuff.
yeah.
And the average human. And now it's completely reversed that AI is so good at coding and really bad at clicking on stuff. And
Mm,
so the stuff that's built around low code, no code is kind of it's just not what you need now. And
yeah,
it's a horse in a Ferrari world. And that it's really interesting because I was talking to a guy named Auntie Rask who does a lot of stuff with ggplot2. He's writing a book on the extensions, and ggplot2 is now hitting its is turning 18. And normally when software is 18 years old, you kind of look at it as probably on its last legs, or else just a freak like Excel, that just is going to live forever.
Mm.
Um, but I was talking to him about the fact that in some weird way, this 18-year-old software is kind of coming into its own. I think is going to, generate a lot of activity and a lot of interest because it's all code. And the thing is you can do anything with it from a visualization standpoint. And
Mm.
AI is great at writing it. And so all of a sudden you've got this thing that was kind of viewed as too difficult and not really in sync with Power BI and Tableau and these other things that were much more interactive. And all of a sudden now it's like sitting on prime real estate. And it's kind of like, it's not the same thing as the agent argument, but it's this idea that I think the kind of the landscape has really shifted. And what was what was kind of front running is now, I think way behind.
Yeah, nice post by the way. Nice post. And good on you for having the guts to say that on LinkedIn as well. Not easy as I discovered earlier this year when I went off on Fabric. Um, but look, I mean, you're exactly right from what I'm saying. You're exactly right from what I'm saying. Unless you can turn your software agentic, you've got no chance of surviving long term over the next couple of years. Because the other way is just so superior. It's so superior. It's unbelievable. Um, Look, it's so new. It's so new. It doesn't exist in every vertical at the market at the moment. But um, when you start spinning up these agents, and I'm sure this is the direction that these like Claude and ChatGPT will try to go, right? Like you'll be able to connect your database via MCP. You'll be able to ask a question, then you'll then be able to go ask the next question, then you'll be able to go ask the next question. I mean, ChatGPT already has this with Codex, by the way. Um,
Right. Right.
so, but it's going to be more
And
like
Google
a,
just released their CLI.
yep,
Did you see
that's
that?
right. Yep, I did, yep. And so. Look, unless you can go this way, I just the only issue I have with it is where's the value? Okay, so yes, ggplot is going to become more popular, but isn't it? It's open source. So like, how are they going to charge for it? How are they going to charge an AI agent to go in and just code it up when the AIs probably even know the code already? So so I agree with you. I agree with you, but how are these guys going to make any money? I'm not sure. I'm not sure at the moment. I mean, there's this potential of microtransactions and things like that, and maybe that's a huge market. I don't know. Maybe instead of paying a Power BI subscription, maybe businesses might be paying cents every time the AI agent goes and queries some system that brings back really fancy visualizations or something. So that's an unknown to me. I don't know. I don't know, but it's probably directionally correct. Like it's probably where it might be going. So I don't know.
I mean, I think that's right. I mean, if you look at kind of after I did that post, I got a ton of responses from either companies or people who'd been already using different products that are kind of trying to stake out that claim in the analytics visual space.
Yeah,
And there were a bunch of them I hadn't even heard of that I'm kind of in the process of investigating. But it's exactly right that I think the the microtransaction, and it's really funny because I just um right before this call, I was on basically buying 2,000 tokens of a new speech to text API,
right.
that does some new things in terms of diarization and identifying speakers automatically.
Yeah,
And I just bought, as I say, I bought a few dollars worth of 2,000 tokens for like $6.
yeah,
And I think that is going to become really, really common.
yeah. That is, I think so too. I just don't know. It's like it's like the next version of the App Store, isn't it? So, these AI clients are going to become App Store like. If they're the new operating system, or they're going to want to sell a lot of apps and make a lot of money out of their ecosystem that's going to be built up around them, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you. I honestly don't know how ggplot differentiates from um, Vega Lite or whatever. Like I'm not 100% sure how that's going to play
Well,
out.
they're both open standards, so I think that they're kind of not looking to be. I think it's maybe somebody who takes that that framework and puts it toward like a visualization front end that as we talked about, that if you've got a parameterized set of visuals and analyses that you can then just have the agent call, that's a
Yeah,
lot better in my mind than having the AI have to carry that full weight.
yeah. I did read another good article the other day, actually, is there's going to be a lot of value in AI marketplaces, like AI agent marketplaces for things like this. It's hard to see how the structure of this will play out, but it definitely feels like this is going to be a thing. Just like Fiverr was a thing, just like how Upwork was a thing. It feels like there's going to now be this AI agent or this agentic marketplace where you'll be able to use like ChatGPT, and you'll be able to connect into this marketplace and get what you need for a specific purpose. That's quite hard to imagine at this point until I sort of see it. But I think this article sort of said, like, sort of wrote out the case for how this is going to be a big thing, and I was like, yeah, yeah, okay, makes sense. It's not here yet, but definitely makes sense.
I mean, it makes perfect sense to me because you think about now how you can basically go virtually rent a big stack of GPUs.
Yeah,
If you've got some sort of task that requires, a lot, if you're, fine tuning a model or you're, doing a lot of AI video, you can basically rent space on, these massive GPUs. And so, if you've got, I can't really imagine yet what that task would be, but if you needed 1,000 agents, you're
yeah,
probably not going to have the computing power and the ability to spin those up and manage them. But being able to basically go to a service where you can do that,
yeah.
I can absolutely see that. As I say, I can't imagine the use case right now, but that doesn't mean it ain't gonna be there.
Yeah, so what this article is saying also was that where AI agents might actually have a bit better value proposition in the short term is in small to medium-sized businesses. And so what it was kind of saying was these areas have been chronically underserved from a software perspective because it didn't make sense to spend a whole lot of time selling into these businesses because it took so long, the value wasn't that high. SaaS kind of entered that market a little bit, like where you were able to get a price point for a software that was cheaper and it made sense, and it delivered enough a value for that price point. But what they're saying now is that if you can build an agentic piece of and it's something agentic that someone can plug into and say, what that could mean is and just think about what a superstar employee would do is maybe you'll be able to go to a marketplace and you'll be able to say, look, I need 20 leads. Can I plug into an agentic service that will get me 20 leads for my um, consulting business or something? So and you might pay $40 for that. How it might go and do a whole lot of stuff online, go and find leads for you on LinkedIn, maybe draft up emails for you to go and reach all those people. So that's just like one example. The other idea is like, okay, so say for instance you need a month's worth of marketing material for social media. Well, you historically you had to spend a lot of time doing that yourself. So in the future, with an agentic service or an agentic software that piece of service, like or agentic software that you could connect into, maybe you could pay 50, $100 for that. And then it would maybe calendarize everything for you, come up with all the visuals. Maybe you just select which ones you want. So this is a kind of level I think it's going to get to. Like historically, you still had to, if you just think about even now, right? You have to dream up every post you do. You need to dream up every image you do. You need to dream up like when to put it in the calendar. There is a very near future, and I think this is what you've got to build for now to be relevant, is where you just go and do all of that for someone and they just approve it. And so
Yeah,
that's
I
that's where
mean,
the
the
small
funny
business.
thing is, I saw a service really similar to that for YouTube, and I had really kind of mixed feelings about it because as somebody who creates content every day, I've kind of made this decision that as kind of bullish as I am on AI, that's the one thing I'm not going to do is that everything's going to be, kind of crafted by hand and going to be, my own views on things. And yeah, I don't
Mm.
know, it'd be interesting because I feel like in some respects, swimming against the tide on that might be a good thing, because I think
Yep.
as AI becomes more and more and more prevalent, I think kind of the human dimension on content is going to be valued. And so, it's kind of like, after machines became great in manufacturing, you still had the artisans who had a nice business of people who wanted something built by hand. And I think
Mm.
content still may be one of those things.
Yep.
I hope
No,
it
look,
is good. I like doing it.
yeah, no, look, I don't disagree. But another example is finance, right? So a lot of people might go to an accountant or a consultant to get forecasts done, or they might, or to analyze their financials, or um, maybe even you could have like an M&A advisor on tap. Just all these little things where it was very difficult to well, in a lot of cases, like not everyone has the expertise or the intelligence to do this, or they don't have the time. So this is where there's like a lot of these opportunities I think are going to open up when you can build this agentic software, or maybe there'll be these marketplaces where you can connect to these agentic things through your main AI client. I think it's an inevitable, actually. I think
Yeah,
it's totally
I agree.
inevitable, and maybe that is the next wave of um well, look, I actually have no doubt like this is the next wave. I'm just sort of sitting here waiting waiting for these opportunities to open up to go to take advantage of them myself, because like this is absolutely the next wave. um and yeah, just be ready to build for this stuff, like to be ready to just like I've got so many ideas. Because this to me is inevitable. It is totally
Yeah,
inevitable, and they're going to be quite huge markets, huge. Because if you think about it, how many businesses today? Let's just take an M&A advisor, right? How many businesses today have an M&A advisor? I don't know, maybe 1 or 2%, like would be able to actually pay for that.
right.
But every business in the world could be weighing up mergers and acquisitions, and being more strategic around that. Imagine just having someone in that could be one click away and cost you $40 to get that sort of level of advice. Like there's no reason why that you can do that manually today through ChatGPT and all this kind of stuff, but ChatGPT doesn't have access to your financials. It doesn't have access to might not have access to other goings on in your local market, for example. Like there's all
Mhm.
these things that you can bring together and then just lay this intelligence layer on top of it, deliver it in a way that is value add to the customer, and they would be 100% willing to pay $40, $50, $100. I don't know. You totally would. You totally would.